Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be demonstrating how you can sync your customer or product insights from your cloud data warehouse into your internal or custom application using Reverse ETL and more specifically Casselled. So you can see here, I have my BigQuery data warehouse here, which contains a table called users, which I want to sync to my internal REST API. So you can see the REST API also here. You can see there are two APIs. One does a single record update. There's an employees API and it updates one employee at a time. And the other API updates employees in bulk. You'll be able to pass multiple employee records in the same API call. So in this demo, I'll be covering both of these APIs, but we'll take the single record update first. Okay, so I've switched over to the Cassell console and here I'm going to create a pipeline to move the data from my BigQuery data warehouse to my REST API connector. Okay, so I'm selecting BigQuery as the warehouse or the source. So here I can either create a new warehouse or I can use an already configured BigQuery warehouse. So if you want to create a new warehouse, it's pretty straightforward. You can just go here, enter the project ID, the bucket name, and give some access to the service account, which gets auto generated. So I'm going to skip that part because I've already configured test BQ connection here. So I'm going to click on that, and here I have to enter the query, the results of which I have to sync to my REST API. So I'll quickly do that. I'll click on run query and it will show me a preview of the results. I'm going to click on continue. I'm going to select REST API as the destination and I'm going to give it a name called employee API and I'm going to click on save and continue. Okay, so now we have reached the app sync settings page, which contains additional information which determines how Casselled will hit your destination API. So in this case, we'll just use the parallelism field because we are not using the bulk API. So we'll just keep this enable bulk checkbox unchecked. So I'm going to give parallelism as 100. To explain what this means is that Casselled will hit the destination API that I'm going to configure with a parallelism of 100. I've given 100 here because that will just fasten up the pipeline. But the ideal number to put here obviously will depend on the throughput your server can support. I think 10 to 20 will be a good number to use here. So I'm going to click on continue here. I've reached the mapping page where I have to give the REST API credentials. So I'm going to give the primary key which uniquely identifies the record as ID, and the REST method is auto selected, which is post, but I can either use put or delete as well. I'm going to copy the URL here. I have to give an authorization header, which also I'm going to copy from Postman. Okay, so now I have to give the body of the API, and that body needs to be in a particular template, which is the mustache template. If you want to read or understand more about mustache template, you can click on this link and then you will be able to kind of understand it a bit more. But I'll quickly show you what that means. Right, so I'm just going to copy the payload from Postman. I'm going to put it here. Now I have to map this payload to the incoming source query fields, right? So I'll tell you how we are going to do it, right? I mean, I have a drop down here which contains all the warehouse query fields of the query that we have entered 2 screens before. So I'm going to just quickly replace the values with the query fields. So I'm going to say ID as ID. First name as first name, last name as last name, email as email, phone number as phone number. These are like fields in the source query. So I'll just quickly finish that. Okay, so I've completed the mapping. So now I'm going to click on run test to verify if the mapping is correct. Or the template is correct. So the template looks to be correct. So I'm going to click on continue. And here I have to name the pipeline. So I'm going to name it, say, BigQuery to REST API. And here I can define the frequency of the pipeline, which determines how frequently the pipeline will run, and look for any delta updates in the BigQuery and sync them to the REST API. So I'm going to run it every 5 minutes, and I'm going to click on create pipeline. So now what it is doing is it is querying BigQuery and then exporting the data to the GCS bucket that you have given, and then it will be syncing the data to the REST API. And I mean, this is the first time it will sync all the data, but on subsequent runs it will just fetch the deltas or records which have changed. So you can see here the data is getting synced here. See, it's complete now. All the 1000 records in the source have been successfully synced to the destination API. Okay, so I'll just quickly demo the bulk API bit as well, because I mean, while this is good, but I think in almost all the practical scenarios, I mean, making 1000 API calls might not be practical. We might want to kind of quickly, I mean, we want to optimize on that. For that, mostly we'll be supporting a bulk API as well. So let's cover that as well. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. Select BigQuery. I'm going to enter the query. Click on run query. Continue REST API, same API. I'll give a parallelism of 10, and here I'll select this checkbox and say enable bulk, and here I have to enter the path of, for instance, in this case, if you see here, the template is actually inside list and employees, right? So I have to enter the path here, which I'm going to say like in list or employees, and I'm going to put the batch size as 100. So batch size determines how many records will be included in one API call. So that I'm going to put as 100. Okay, so now I'll just copy the payload. Okay, I'll just go to the next page, and I've reached the mapping page. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to copy the URL here. It's a nested API. Copy the headers. Okay, so now for the body part, I'm going to copy the body from here. I'm going to put it here. Now if we see here, right, I mean, even though there are multiple entries in the payload, you just have to enter, like, you know, there's a list and employees, and there's a list of employee records. So you don't have to give multiple records, you just have to give one record inside the list, and the path of the template is something that we already configured in the previous screen. So this is how we have to give the template, and then the template is exactly similar to whatever we saw earlier. So I'm not going to map everything, I'm just going to map 2 records, ID and first name. I'm going to click on run test and then continue, and I'll name the pipeline BigQuery to REST API bulk, and I'm going to give frequency as 5 minutes. So now if you see now, compared to the previous run, this will be much faster, because it doesn't really have to make 1000 API calls. It just has to make I think 10 API calls. See, it's completed now, like all of a sudden, because it doesn't really have to make 1000 API calls, and there is a parallelism of 10, and there are 100 records in each API call. That's about it, guys. Thank you.